Welcome back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. You know, when we began these broadcasts now 2 years ago with Dutch Rupersberger and our friends at Pizza John's in Essex, I said to Don Moeller, we're going to find a way to mix and mingle. And I didn't know about the pandemic. I figured we'd get conversation. We'd be sitting down at places like State Fair with people like Ben Card. We'd be sitting at places like Fadley with Mayor Brandon Scott. We'd be out at places like El Guapo, maybe with a Johnny O. But, you know, pandemic shut this thing down, but it is not shut down, Don. Our ability to talk to people you know, that I know, that a lot of folks in the community know about sort of holding business together and the local thing that we love to call Baltimore Positive, right?
Absolutely. And what a terrific segment today. I don't think it would be possible, Nestor, you indicated that your wife Jen may be joining us. I don't think it would be possible to find anybody in the region who doesn't know our next guest over the past 30 years trying to tell us how to take care of our plants.
That's
on
right.
Saturday and Sunday morning. It's the one and only Carrie Engel, the garden manager at Valley View Farms. Carrie, how are you?
I'm doing great. I miss seeing you at the kids campaign this year. I'm telling you, that's just a regular visit for us.
I miss being out there. Nestor obviously is going to start with a plant.
Well, my wife sent this in, Carrie.
Oh, there you go.
You know, because we've seen you on BAL and whatnot and on the television. And I figured now that we got video, because I did radio for 29 years, right? So this is year 30. I'm doing video. So I can hold the plan up. And, you know, my wife said she got this planter at Valley View Farms. And
right.
It's not healthy. You know, I don't know what to say.
It actually looks pretty darn good. It's probably just taking a little bit of a rest. A lot of plants, especially in the wintertime, will slow down a little bit. I've got, let's see. I think I have
Honey, it's just taking a rest.
Just taking a rest. So, yeah, here's one in bloom.
Oh, that's an orchid. Look at that. It's pretty.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you take a look here at the leaves and everything, there's a little bit more, but not a whole heck of a lot.
Well, I want to put it down because I try not to touch my wife's, but these fingers are not green, okay? Carrie, I'm going to tell you a story because I've never had you on, and I don't even know if Moeller knows this one. First off, do you know that Don was my high school guidance counselor in 1982?
I did not know that. Nope, I knew that he was in
I met Don on the stuff. I didn't meet Don on the first day of high school. I met him before I went into high school because I needed to transfer classes. It's a true story, and it involves horticulture. And so I had to move a bunch of my classes around to get journalism. And I wound up taking an art. I wound up taking typewriting class with Mr. Polanis. And as you can see, I'm missing a finger. And I was a terrible typer, even though I type for a living now. But I transferred classes a few times. I was a mercurial child, right, Don? And I got transferred into, in order to get out of typewriting, I had to just accept that I was going to be in horticulture. And it was like seventh period, end of the day. Do you remember Miss Eve Lawless, Don?
I know Eve well. Yeah.
She was
Carrie,
my horticulture teacher.
Yeah, I do. I mean, not well, but yeah, I knew of her back in the day. Yeah.
10th grade, I did 3.5, 4 months of horticulture, and my wife loves plants. We go up to Longwood Gardens. We're going up next Friday on my dad's birthday. So, you know, I've been sort of more, since I had my wife, we have plants here. We have a lot of plants here. I'd love to learn more. It would increase the relationship and time watering when my wife's going to Florida next month and says, honey, don't kill the plants, which I've done. When my wife got cancer in 14, she had friends come over and take the plants because she knew I killed it. She was going to survive, but the plants, no chance. Truly.
Well, Carrie, start with that. Start with your love. I mean, obviously, Nestor's wife has a love of plants. My wife loves plants. You, from a young girl, tell folks about Carrie Engel, beyond the person they see on Saturday and Sundays on WBAL, but this young girl that fell in love with plants at a very young age and ended up at Valley View forever.
Well, I started here at 16. My maiden name is Fern, so that seemed right? So Carrie Fern, one of 6 kids. All 6 of us ended up working here. My one brother, Joe, worked here 5 times because he kept getting fired. But Punky would let him back in. But it was just fun because I wanted to make money. At the time, I was going to be paying for my own college, and I had a car. And Valley View really kind of let me work whatever hours I needed to, which was fantastic. And I did learn a lot about plants. Just lucky I never planned on doing this for a living. I planned on going into law and then into politics.
But you weren't born this way. You had like a 10th grade horticulture class, and
I never took a horticulture class. I don't have any classes, and I have a few.
But your class
classes.
was literally there. The science of just being there.
It was there. And I went to Hereford, which is an agricultural school anyway. So I guess some of that made sense. But we had a lot of Hereford, Delaney, Calvert Hall, Loyola kids that worked here. And it was a very social atmosphere. And we just had a blast.
But they're so temperamental, right? Plants. I mean, it's very easy to kill a plant. Or am I wrong? Or am I doing it wrong?
I think most people with plants tend to care for them too much. Most of the time we see problems with plants is from overwatering or not enough drainage. So most of the time it's because they want to over nurture. So an awful lot of plants do better, including that orchid, with benign neglect. So kind of let it go. You might want to start feeding it a little bit as the days get longer. Give it some orchid food. I like the liquid foods or the powders that you can mix up into liquid, and it should come back around. But yeah, I just lucked out.
Wow. Whew.
Yeah. So I ended up meeting my husband here. We were married for 20 years. So that was good while it lasted. But other than that, I've just had a lot of support here with the people, the good family business, and have just been lucky by the Valley View community and then the Baltimore community as a whole. I mean, these are great people that we live with.
Well, Carrie, I think, and I have a special place in my heart for the Ford family, as did all of my bosses. Kevin Kamenich,
oh, absolutely.
Jim Smith. I mean, they all love. I mean, it was a rite of passage to come out there at Christmas, and they would look forward getting to go over and talk to Billy and Andy. Tell folks a little bit, because I think it's the essence. It is what Nestor wanted to do originally with Baltimore Positive, was tell these great stories about the businesses that make the Baltimore region great. And Valley View, boy, is the quintessential small business, the little engine that could. Tell folks a little bit about the Ford family and what makes them special.
Well, this place started with Bill and Punky Ford. Punky had gone to Rutgers University, and I think he was in the ROTC program, and he ended up a captain in the Army. I think he was even part of the Rangers. So his brother, Billy, is 4 years younger. So he finished up school in Cornell. Billy went back to the family farm and said, hey, instead of, just selling to producers like Giant, Green Giant, all those guys, why don't we market directly to the public? And that was still relatively new. So he took some classes or met some people at the Ohio Roadside Marketing Association and really got some great ideas to what a roadside stand could be and how it could be made better. So it was great, as we have, the Ford family has a farm, 100 and some acres, but they also farmed, we used to take kids on pumpkin tours up where Hunt Valley Town Center is. So, I mean, they were in agriculture all over the community. But then they started this place in 1962. And I think they had a bit of a struggle at first. But, my brothers and sisters all went over to the farm and picked corn and picked tomatoes and brought them back to the store. Punky never let me out of the store. He told me I was here forever. I was not
I'm old enough. I remember the store in the mid-'70s because my Aparicio cousins lived literally right at York and Padonia. So anytime during the holidays, it was a special thing. And obviously for my wife worked in Hunt Valley. All of her relatives from New Hampshire, when they come down, it's especially around the holidays, certainly a destination. The holiday part of it, in my mind, if I had to paint the story of your story, I'd say I probably started with some Christmas trees because it was an outdoor thing, and then it really became something. Is that it, or am I backwards?
Well, it started out more as a produce stand. So we sold our own tomatoes and our own corn and cantaloupe and watermelon and all that kind of stuff. And then pumpkins. When I first started, pumpkins were all you could carry for $1. That was hysterical to watch these guys try to get 20 pumpkins through the register area. So that was funny. But then little by little, they stopped growing the produce and turned it over into greenhouses. So now over at the farm, we have 12 greenhouses, and we grow 77 varieties of tomatoes and 40 varieties of peppers and just all sorts of annuals and hanging baskets and that kind of thing. So it's just kind of changed. And we've lucked out. We have a fantastic grower that's been over there now for 25 years. In the spring, we talk daily. This time of year, it's weekly. But it really is amazing to see that and see the plants. So we're able to, even this year when there are going to be some supply and demand issues, because we're able to grow our own, we're going to be able to have most of that stuff. And it's just because I think this long time commitment, I think, to horticulture in this community. But Billy and Punky just did it. Punky really got going with the Christmas shop, and later on he was key in getting our water garden department going. Billy always checked on the numbers to make sure we were on the right track. And Billy loved talking to everybody. I mean, he was just a friendly guy.
He could
just
hold
really
court, right?
loved
I
the
mean,
community.
he's sitting in that, and later he was sitting in that chair, and he just hold court. You
Yep,
know,
you're
you
absolutely
just
right.
you just gather around, and it was the gospel according to Bill. It was really amazing. For those of you just joining in, you recognize that voice if you're watching on YouTube. You know the Garden Lady from WBAL TV. Carrie, we should mention that you just had an amazing award. You were the 2020 Professional Achievement Award from the Maryland Nursery, Landscape, and Greenhouse Association. And I was shocked to see, Care, that you were only the third female since 1948
Yeah,
win that award.
it's amazing. There are so many great women in this industry, and I think we're starting to gain ground there and everything. An awful lot of the recipients of this award are people that I've known for years. So I think back to Richard Simon and Carvel Akehurst, our own Kenny Rule, who has passed, but he won that 20 some years ago. But it really is an honor when I look at the other people who have gotten this award and how much they've done for the industry, and just to think that me and Valley View can be a part of that. Whatever. I'm astonished by it, and I was very surprised by it. But I'm very proud to be a part of the MNLGA, and again, the agriculture, especially the horticulture community in Maryland.
Well, what is very, very well deserved, and again, tremendous respect across the region. Carrie, what is it about plant? You know, I go back again. Nestor talks about his wife. I look at my wife. You develop a real love for the outdoors, for nature, for plants, for trees. What is the zen about it, I guess is the way. What is it about plants and horticulture and landscaping that is so important to people and to you?
To me, I've honestly been thinking about that a lot lately. And I think it's the connectivity you have with people that are gardeners, people that want to grow something. And like during this pandemic, it's been increasing. People want to grow their own herbs, want to grow their own vegetables, and just being able to help them be successful makes me feel good.
And an idiot like me that kills plants to finally grow something I can eat, right?
But, yeah. But I mean, you got to kill a few plants. You'll learn a whole lot more from killing them. Sometimes, unfortunately.
My son is a gardener, and he and his wife and my wife. When my wife had leukemia in 14 and 15, the leukemia doctors over at Hopkins, they had one rule. They said, stay out of the dirt. You're not allowed to, you're not allowed to be in the dirt, literally. And there are pictures of my bald wife with a port in her arm yanking stuff out of the ground with me screaming at get out of the garden, So this is 5 or 6 years ago. One of the reasons we're going to sell our condo, by the way, plug there for Jeff Moeller and Gary Realty. We live up in the sky. We take pictures like this out the window. One thing my wife would like to have above and beyond a grill and all of that would be a garden. And you said really a key word here about five. You said so much, but you said tomatoes. And in February, we said 40 different, 60 different, how many different tomatoes?
77 different tomatoes the last weekend in April. We carry 40 different varieties from about April 1st through May 20th or so. But we have one weekend where we're bringing an extra 40, mainly heirloom tomatoes. People really seem to love those.
Gosh. See, I'm 52, and I didn't know anything when I was 22 or 32, right? Like, tomato was just like the thing they put on a salad. Now I'm a little bit more, Bourdain, Fieri. I'm a little more, I've hung out with Don Muller's wife, Linda, in Paris and stuff. So, I mean, tomatoes, it's just the greatest thing in the world. And fresh corn and all of the things that grow here that we eat. My wife and I live at the harbor, and we are addicts that every Sunday, and not just for the bakery items, but we go over and we see, just the trucks from folks who grow these beautiful things that we eat here. Peppers, cantaloupes, the golden. I've turned the yellow watermelon thing into a whole world in August because I'm from Dundalk. I'd never seen a golden watermelon until about 5-6 years ago. And the varieties of fruits and vegetables, especially as we travel the world, where we go places and go into markets and see things that grow in other places, we're really we live in a region, in an area with that water over there and the mountains and what we do here, that the food here in the summer, the things you can grow. And that's one of the reasons I think, look, I don't know that I really want to grow it. I love eating it, but if I had to grow it, I'd like to learn how to do it, right?
Well, just a quick story. So I had my nieces and nephews over, and we did pumpkin carving one day at my house. And so it was probably October 15th, October 20th, somewhere in there. And I said to my niece, could you go outside? And I have what they call an earth box. It's a big 2 cubic feet box that I grow a lot of vegetables in. I said, could you go out and get a couple heads of romaine lettuce for me? We were doing like some kind of salad wraps, tuna wraps. And she's like, wow, what do you mean? You can grow now? I'm like, you can grow pretty much year round. You just have to change what you're growing and all that. But, you know, she's 20, I don't know, 23, 24, somewhere in there. But she was just so psyched about that now she's all about doing something like that herself. But just knowing you can take a couple of steps and harvest dinner is wonderful.
Well, there, Carrie, you just touched. It was one of my little notes that I had written down. It's because it's all about Don. So I little that's my wife.
He's got a garden too.
Always about you. I've got one of those boxes, probably smaller than yours, and I got it too late in the summer last year, and I'm bound and determined to be able to walk out every day and get lettuce for
there
the
you go.
salad.
That's good.
So
plan.
I understand. Walk me through it. I understand that if I want to do that, I have to be planting the lettuce in March. Is that right?
If you're going to do it from seed, you want to start it inside in March. If you want to go outside with the transplants, you're over on the west side, right? So I would think by about, I don't know, first, second week of April, you could probably put it outside. And
so they
start
actually sell, like at Valley View, if I were to come out, you actually have lettuce plants already started, so I don't have to start from seed?
Yeah, we have probably 7 or 8 varieties. And, you know, if you only need 2 of each, we have a special pack that has 2 romaine, 2 red lettuce, 2 green lettuce.
My wife so needs a
There you go. I'm
yard.
heading out to Valley. So I take these.
Can I have part of your yard? Can I rent some land in Catonsville? And
so I'm taking, wait a minute now, this is the above ground box I've got. So I'm going to take these 2 different varieties, 3 different, so I'll have 6 different types of lettuce. Now I put them in. Carrie, do I have lettuce all summer then from that?
No, you'll probably have to transplant more into that. And lettuce does tend to get a little bitter in the summer. It's a better cool weather plant. So you're probably good till about July or so. The romaine lettuce, you're going to harvest from the head. So you're just going to take that whole thing. The leaf lettuces are cool because you just harvest those outside leaves and you leave that little heart in the center and it keeps producing. So you can get probably 4 or 5 cuts from a single lettuce plant.
My wife and I are taking a road trip one day, Carrie. I'm going to make sure you're there and you walk us through. How about the other thing? I love radishes. Can I grow radishes in this thing?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, you start that from seed, plant your seed 21 days from seed to radish for like that little cherry.
God, you're like an encyclopedia. Like
21
I could just
days,
sit here all day and ask you questions and learn stuff. Like literally. Well, you know, part of this, I think, in the modern era, and my son's the greatest at this. He'll just, you know, YouTube a video, find a trusted resource on anything, how to make an egg, how to, you know, hammer something, whatever, fix things. I mean, he's like MacGyver. My wife's a little bit more like that. Where me, I just go to the farmer's market and find Mr. Bartenfelder and say, I like that corn. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Yeah, we have a person that grows lettuce from these. We've gotten to know our farmers, you know, over the last 10 years, you know. But we are going to sell our place and legitimately at least have herbs and tomatoes in that. If not, you know, getting a little more fancy like my buddy Ron Zakowski, who brings me Cherokee tomatoes and purple stuff, just all this great stuff. Also, I invite, and we can't have anybody over last year, so it's been a little weird getting up deliveries. But take someone like me, and I don't want to say the village idiot, but all right, let's just call me that. And I come out to you and I say, I want to grow 6 things, 8 things, you know, vegetables, things to eat. Doing it on the internet's cool and you can look it up, but Don will tell you, man, I need to have real tutoring. This is why he's still in my life 38 years later. I need some supervision, as he would say. And do you have anything that feels like Garden for Dummies 101 for a guy like me, or even something online where you could literally go from, hey, I had Miss Lawless at horticulture back in '82, and I finally want to grow a garden so I can grow this stuff without doing it on the internet, having a friend in Cockeysville, honestly, right?
Right. I mean, first of all, we're going to have things and let you know when they should be planted. We have a nice little vegetable planting guide that we give out. We've had that for 40, 50 years. That'll give you planting times for where you live in the Baltimore area. And we're here to help you with that too. And then our signage is really good. So we'll tell you about the best variety. So if you wanted that Cherokee purple tomato, okay, that's going to be a darn big tomato. It's what we call a indeterminate. It's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. If you want something that's going to stay a little bit shorter, you might look at Celebrity Tomatoes or Galahad, and they're going to give you the same size tomato, but the plant's not going to be as big.
But do they taste good?
Oh, they taste good. I mean, once you get into Maryland tomatoes, they taste good. And if you're growing them in the soil, a lot of it's our soil. You know it. Anybody that's had a garden, it's different. Fresh vegetables are different. They're just, we used to grow corn out at the farm, and we would never sell the corn a second day. So it'd be harvested in the morning. I'd take leftovers home. Again, 6 kids in the family. My grandparents lived with us, and we sat down and just chowed through that corn. And it was so fresh that I have a hard time buying it anymore, because I was spoiled by that experience. So farmers markets have helped there a lot, and kind of, come up where other places have fallen a little short.
You said some stuff, and I have a million questions, but you said what part of town you live in. You asked. So if I'm growing something in Bel Air, it's different than growing it in Severna Park.
Oh, absolutely. Severna Park and even Baltimore City, they're going to be able to plant things like tomatoes by mid-April. Once you get out to Catonsville, you go to Eldersburg, even up here in Cockeysville and up to Hereford, you're really looking at Mother's Day. And some of that's the water effect, some of that's the change in elevation. So there are just a lot of different, and we've looked at that over the years. And again, the Ford family has farmed in all those areas, so they have experience in the ground and how things should be grown.
Hold on, Don, did you know that?
I'm going to say, I'm looking at you, and I'm just chuckling, because you love learning new stuff. And
I do.
Having Carrie give you this class today on horticulture.
I'm befuddled by all of this. The man who grows the lettuce, that is the most delicious lettuce, he's over near the 5301 split. He comes and I don't even know his name. I know his truck, but his lettuce tastes different. And I ask him, like, why does your lettuce taste so good? He's like, it's like, we know what we're doing. And I'm like, yes, you do. And it doesn't taste like the same stuff I buy at Wise or any other market. And I know you told me benign neglect on this thing. And yet I feel like there's nothing benign or neglectful when I'm eating that purple Cherokee. It feels like there's a lot of love and science and dirt and water and things and time of the year and all of that goes into it. But it's not rocket science. It's knowing someone like you and then actually following through on a daily basis, right?
It is. And I go back to Billy and Punky Ford. Billy always had a big garden at his house. He'd grow 40 different tomato plants. If I wanted him to test one that maybe we wanted to try to sell the next year, he would test it and let us know if it was worth it or not. So that was like great with that. And the other thing that's great about him, there were 2 people living at his house, and he was growing 40 plants. I didn't really have to grow tomatoes because he would bring in bucket loads every spring. And I mean, that was just so cool.
It sounds
and,
like 40 grandchildren to have 40 plants. You know what I mean? Literally, it just sounds like I would have 40 new things crying for water.
Well, he was good because he would water the plants once he put them in the ground, but he had the soil conditions so well that most years he didn't have to water ever again. I mean, the rain would take care of it. Now, when you grow in a pot, whole different deal. If you grow in a pot, you probably have to check water every day. But I mean, it was a point of pride to him that he didn't have to go back and water the plants because the soil was so good and held so much moisture. But at the same time, gave the plants good air circulation in the roots.
Again, if you're just tuning in, you recognize the voice. Carrie Engel, garden manager, Valley View Farms, 30 years started there at 16, not 30 years of Valley View, more than that, 30 years on WBAL, and award-winning Carrie Engel, we should say. Carrie, take us back. This is all great stuff, and Nestor's getting his education, but take us back as a small business person to that dreaded Friday, March the 13th, when the country shut down and we entered, which we still haven't come out of on the other side yet, we entered an unprecedented year. Talk to us about someone whose business predicated on people being able to come, mill around, just do what they do out at the garden center. How did your life change? And
it changed a lot. We closed the store on March 21st. That was our last day. We closed because there were concerns. Our employees didn't like the customers getting too close. And we knew we had to sort of reset the store to give us more distancing and everything. And every time we were getting ready to go back in, Governor Hogan would come out and say something that slowed us down again. So we started with curbside service in April. And that was okay. We just had our managers working. So there were 12 of us working on getting the plants out to customers' cars and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, we opened up 9 to 2 in the spring. Well, spring at Valley View is always crowded and nuts and crazy and wonderful. I'll say that too. Opening 9 to 2 was tough. We had lines every day going around the building. I mean, they move fast because I think things were 6 feet apart. And it wasn't until probably Memorial Day that we opened up finally to what's been working for us since then, which is 8 to 6 every day. We'll probably increase that a little bit. But it was weird because customers would call and say, hey, when can I come and there not be a line? And we're like, we've never been through this. We don't know. And it didn't matter if it was rain or shine. People were in here, and it was wonderful and nerve-wracking. And I'll say since June, our sales have been up in the plant part of everything every single month. Christmas took a little bit of a hit, but everything else has been just amazing. And
we're about to enter an outdoor life, literally. Like last year, no one was prepared for it. Everyone. I mean, my wife and I, we had Brooke Learman on. You can go find that at Baltimore Positive as well. I told her we walked through the entire district on Wednesday. When the first day at 60 degrees, we're all out in bikinis, right? But, spring is coming. I wanted to ask you this because I've written down so many questions, and this had to do with the temperature. You mentioned time of season. You mentioned doing this when you were 16. I know it's been a few years, but climate change in this time of year when we're getting these earlier, longer, nicer days. What has this done to growing in your world, in our world here, let's say over the last 20 years?
I mean, I have to be honest, we are so connected to the weathermen, weather people everywhere to know what's going on. So it has changed, and as the days get longer and things get a little bit warmer, our plants are doing better, but we have to watch insect life cycles to see if they're any different. Watch tree life cycles to see if things are happening a little bit differently, but we still have to keep an eye day to day to the weather. Last year, our last frost happened after Mother's Day. I was in bed on a Wednesday morning, my day off. I turned on the TV. It said that it was 32 degrees. I got to work too late, and we had a lot of frost damage on a lot of our tropical plants that day. Wow. And I felt awful because had I paid closer attention, those plants would have been undercover. So as much as there is climate change and things might be warmer and the averages are different, we still have to watch it day to day, just like everybody, all the farmers in agriculture and everybody else, just to make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time, and that we can pivot. And pivoting.
Carrie, describe that moment. I love that story.
Oh, I hated that moment.
I could tell that in your voice, and that's why I was going to say, these Nestor joked that they're like children and grandchildren, but these plants really do become family, right? And you ran in there. Talk about that moment when you ran in there and saw.
Well, I knew the plants in the store were okay because we run fans, and most of the plants are undercover, even if they're not. Whatever, they're a little bit protected. But this was an order that had come up from Florida, so it was tropicals like mandevilla and hibiscus sitting on our back driveway. So if you know you're going to get frost as the sun's coming up, you can run water on them. I mean, frost happens like after dawn, I want to say. So if you can get here ahead of time, you're usually okay by keeping the stuff watered or anything. So it's just tough. So the plants were all damaged. They weren't dead, but they were damaged. So we had to cut all the plants back and then basically regrow them back up to prime time, which took almost 2 months to really get them back. So it was disheartening. And in the meantime, we had to bring in fresh plants to still have those for sale. But it worked out. I think we went through most of them. But yeah, just having stuff like that happen to you. And there have been plenty of times when I've gotten in at 5 a.m. to make sure I was covered.
I could tell by your voice, and I know you've been very gracious with your time. Before we let you run, though, Nestor alluded to it earlier. He talked about it was a rite of passage when he would visit his relatives, and particularly at Christmas. Valley View has become this iconic Christmas village that goes way beyond York Road and Towson and Timonium. People come from all over the state. How did that evolve, Carrie? Talk about the evolution of Valley View Farms into this truly Christmas wonderland.
Yeah, I'm going to say in the mid to late 60s, Punky ran into somebody, trying to think their name was Whitehurst, and they were bringing things in from Germany. And he just kind of got on board on that, got some kind of cool things. 1971, after Christmas, we have a fire. So we have to rebuild, basically. We put up the big metal building that we have today the following year. So the Christmas shop did expand after that. And we were just able to work with an awful lot of good suppliers. Then I think in the 80s, Punky and his team, Kathy Ford, Kathy and Joe, they started going overseas and bringing things in directly from Europe, especially Germany. So we would actually have the builder and the craftsman from Steinbach Nutcrackers would come and talk to us and sign things. So it's just, and he was always really good about getting the word out. And this is pre-social media, but he'd find a way to, check in with newspapers or radio or TV stations, just say, you need to come out and check this out. And did a great job at just marketing all of that for us.
So after 71 fire, you build it back and make it better. And here we are 50 years later talking about it. Carrie, last thing for you, and next time on, we're going to discuss photosynthesis, okay? I still don't really understand it.
Okay, fair enough.
Johnson tried in 6th grade, but here we are. Cicadas, and maybe we'll bring that up. Do they taste good? First things first, and what do they represent? I saw some stat this
so
morning
cool
on Twitter. It's like 1.4 million could live on an acre that's crazy, right?
Yeah, no, it's so cool. And I got just an email this morning from a guy who found an interview that I'd done with somebody in 2004, and he's like, let's reconnect. I don't remember what I said in 2004, whatever. Anyway,
I can't remember what I said at breakfast. So.
Exactly. So there's this guy, he's called the Bug Guy. He's down at the University of Maryland. His name is Dr. Mike Raupp, R-A-U-P-P. I would certainly think about talking to him. But he does eat cicadas. I haven't tried them. They'd have to at least be dipped in chocolate for me.
What kind of chocolate? Would that be a white chocolate, a Belgian, a dark? How would you go with that?
I'm going dark. No, definitely
dark. I'm
dark.
always dark too.
With a little bit of Merlot or something, I'd be
No disrespect to the Hershey people, but my chocolate's dark these days.
So the only thing the cicadas are really going to bother are newly planted trees, because the females lay their eggs in the last, 12 inches or so of these little twigs, and they just put a slit in them. So the trees then start to flag. So the big trees don't really get hurt, even, they'll have a little bit of flagging, but young trees, newly planted trees, you're probably going to want to put some kind of net over to try to keep those little guys away.
Wow.
But they're good because they're good ground aeration.
So we got a plague, and now we got locusts. Here in 2021. At least
not locusts. Dr. Mike will tell you not locusts, but whatever.
Hey, Carrie, you did just mention, and for folks that are listening, because this is a segment that's going to be shared.
I wrote Mike Raupp down. He's coming on.
People love gardening, and they're going to be sending it to other folks. So I want to make sure I was clear on something. My wife will ask me this. So the cicadas are going to come. They're going to be all over the yard, all over the garden. Does she have to get them out of the garden, or does she just let them stay there and decompose?
They're generally going to be fine. Yeah, you can certainly leave them in the garden, and then the little guys will climb back down and resettle for the next 17 years before they emerge again. The cicadas are great, though. They're good for soil aeration. A lot of us have a lot of soil compaction, especially in neighborhoods where all the topsoil's been stripped away. So they're good to add to that. And you're usually going to find them around trees. You might not see them everywhere. I remember as a kid, one of our bus drivers parked in a shady spot and left the windows open. Oh my gosh. It was awful.
Amazing.
Well, you and I, 4th of July, we're going to have some fried chocolate cicadas at the Cape.
All right, I'm in.
Man. We'll clean up every 17 years, man.
You might have to try some with some Old Bay on them, right?
There you go. There you go.
Thinking.
Carrie, anything you want to promote at Valley View? Anything upcoming that people should be aware of or paying attention to?
We're setting up for spring. People are going crazy in our seed area right now. And houseplants, you see them behind me. I have a Zoom meeting at 11 o'clock with the group, and it's all about houseplants. People are just really into that right now. I think as they're staying home a little bit more, that's become great.
Do you have a plant you recommend for like breathing in a place, like literally?
Oh yeah.
Go what do you got?
All of these plants will do that. Plus they take toxins out of the air. You need a lot of plants to do that, but they take out things like formaldehyde and benzene and TD, just different things you might find in carpeting or paint. So they really are good. There's a study done by I don't forget his name. He's with NASA. And he did a nice job to try to bring plants into the space station to help purify the air with, real means other than charcoal filtration and stuff.
All right, next episode, we're going to do photosynthesis with you, Carrie. And the next thing we're going to I know next time, in the middle of the night, my cat gets a little wound up. She gets into the plant in the corner of the bedroom. And, her name at 3 a.m. is, Nala, get out of the damn plant. So, I'm sure we have to come up with something, to keep the cat out of the plant. Too. So,
that's your homework,
okay?
Nestor, I knew Carrie's one of my favorite people. And I knew somehow I knew that you and she would become best buds right out of the gate. So there you go.
This is good. This was really, really good. This
fantastic.
Gratifying to finally have you on after walking through your village. We get some yasu. We pick up some in the Dutch market. We get some pastry, some pumpkin rolls, some donuts, and then we come see you. So now I have a new friend.
Very good. No, same here, Nestor. Look forward to seeing you back at the store.
I look a little different with the mask on, but
we all do. We all do.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carrie.
Carrie Engel joining us here from Valley View Farms. Next up, photosynthesis and what wine to pair with your cicada. On behalf of former Baltimore County Executive Don Moeller, I am Nestor Aparicio. Please support our sponsors from State Fair and El Guapo and our friends at Fadley's and the new big crab cake thing that I'm coming up with. Then I'm going to get that party started. And our friends at Pizza John's, who apparently have a great new crab cake as well. So going to make this crab cake kind of summer around here. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking. Baltimore positive and great local tomatoes.
Go for it.